Hello, welcome to video 8, and today this is the design that we're going to be working on. The first thing I'm going to start with is adding a satin stitch to the underside of one of those flowers, and as you can see it's really simple. I'm just laying down the stitches from side to side until that shape has been completely filled. You can of course change the stitches, don't forget you don't have to follow what I'm doing. Next we're going to do that stem, and this is the herringbone stitch that I'm going to use with the brown thread, of course. Now if you're not familiar with the herringbone stitch, if you've never done it before, I do recommend that you go and visit my online school of embroidery and actually do the little mini class that I have there with just the herringbone stitch. It's a very nice stitch, it gives a beautiful texture, but the beginning can be a little bit daunting on how to start it. You just have to sort of crisscross. I hope you can follow along with me here. Once you get going, it's actually pretty simple. I think most people find the very beginning of the stitch just a little bit challenging. So here we're just going to fill that whole stem all the way up until the bird, and then on the other side as well. If you find that the herringbone stitch is too cumbersome for you, you can always outline that stem with 2 lines of stem stitch. Nice and simple. These little stems here are just down in a simple back stitch. I think there's only 2 of those stems on the design. Next we're going to fill these leaves here with a fly stitch. You're probably very familiar with this by now, so this is going to be a very quick demonstration of the fly stitch on one of the leaves, and we're using the olive green number 734. Now let's start on the bird. I'm using the orange number 976, and this is going to be a chain stitch that's going to outline the bird's orange part of the body. And I find that the chain stitch has a beautiful texture because that's kind of like the main part of the bird. Big belly, round head, so the chain stitch looks good there. With the red part of the wing, I've decided to use a stem stitch. Just wanted to break it up, make it a little bit different. Of course you can use any stitch you want. Now while I'm already here, I'm just going to go straight onto those tail feathers, I guess you would call them, and also continue with the stem stitch. And then continuing on with the red thread, I'm going to add a single pistol stitch on the inside of each of those tail feathers, just for a bit of texture. Now for the purple part of the wing, I've decided to fill that solid with a purple thread 3835. If you wanted to outline this as well, that's absolutely fine. I thought the fill was quite nice. And then just to add a little bit of extra texture, a running stitch. Okay, the birdie is going to get an eye in a French knot. I think that's the easiest way to do an eye. And then the beak, we're just going to lay down 3 single stitches using the red number 22. Those little tiny blue dots are done in a satin stitch in the light blue color. Now these petals here, I really want you to start with the bottom petals. I know I've got the flower here upside down. You'll find it much easier if you start from the bottom and stitch the way that I'm stitching, so that your needle comes up at the top of the petal and goes in at the base of the petal. And as you move up, you'll find that it's easier to stitch because your needle is not going to be splitting already existing stitches. I hope that makes sense, but if it doesn't, just trust me and use this method. So you're going to start with the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4 petals there, and you're just going to fill them all with a satin stitch, and you don't have to worry about it being perfect or anything. The satin stitch here is quite forgiving. So we just want to differentiate all those petals from one another. From this point here, you're just going to go straight onto the next row of petals and fill those, and then continue. Then I added a single French knot at the point where all the petals meet. So you can see probably better on your fabric before you add the embroidery where those French knots should go. But I think it's quite intuitive. You go 3 at the bottom, 2 in the middle, 1 at the top. And then that arc inside the flower, I also filled that with a row of French knots. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial.